Everyone. For those who don't know me, I'm Sergio Panunzi. I'm the Commissioner of the Department of General Services for the City of Albany. So I want to welcome for you to attend this meeting. It's important for us to get feedback. One of the things that we learned through the years is that before we go into a project, to talk to the community, see what their vision is, so that we could probably merge them together with what the state and DOT requires us to do on a road, and we could probably marry them together. But one of the things that in the past that we've done, we've just done a regular street, and then people say, well, you should have thought of this, you should have thought of that. So since last year, we started going into different communities and talk to them about projects in the community. So I welcome, this is about the Frisbie Street project. So with me I have, before I start, I want Sonia Frederick, Councilwoman. Thank you for attending with us. And I'm going to turn the microphone on because once I got a microphone, I keep on talking. So I have with me my Deputy Commissioner, Frank Cioli, who's in charge of the public relations in this project, and talking about how you're going to get information as it comes through. Gary Bowles, our engineer, our acting engineer, Chris Marini. Gary Bowles is our project manager and road construction guy. So there's a lot of information. We want to get some feedback from you and see how we could develop this program. This is one of two meetings that we will have. First, we'll absorb what you guys are thinking about, what's your vision. We're going to go into the planning, talk to the designers, the architect, and see if some of these things can be implemented, and then come back and show you a choice of options that we can do and we can do. One of the things that we discovered through the projects is that sometimes regulations do not allow us to do certain things. The DOT would not allow us to do a street less than 30 feet wide, for example. I'm just using that. So we have to compare notes with what our issues are. So our visions are. So thank you for attending. I'm going to turn it over to Frank Cioli, who is going to take the rest of the program. By the way, just to let you know, anybody that comes in, there's a sheet out in the back. You could put your email address. You'll be enrolled into the project updates. As you get them, you get an email. All of this is going to be online, including the video. So if for those who missed it, they could go into our YouTube page and look at it. So there's a lot of opportunity for everybody to comment, and that's what we're here for. So thank you, and please don't be shy. Let us know what your visions are.
Okay, thank you. Do you want to say a few words before we get started?
Sure, and then I will take a seat over there. So hi everyone, Sonia Frederick, council member for the 1st Ward, where Frisbie is located. Some of you here might be friends of the 1st Ward, might be in the 7th Ward or surrounding areas. We do appreciate you coming out here today. Frisbie, a number of us use Frisbie on a daily basis, if not more often than that. So definitely a focus area for all of us. A lot of you in the room here have been longtime advocates for this redesign, so very proud to see it coming to fruition now. It's been a lot of work, particularly I see former council member Dominic Castellaro in the room and others that have been tireless advocates towards this. So just want to thank everyone for this, and in advance, thank you for your feedback. We're getting ahead of it early. The ground will break in 2025 for this project, but we're getting feedback now so that we truly incorporate the needs and the wants of the community in this redesign. So that's it. Thank you.
Okay, I think most of my introduction was done by Sergio and Sonia, so let's just jump right in. Let me do this part, and then you can do the next. How's that? So the project boundaries, as it's set up right now, is Frisbie from McCarty Avenue to Avenue B to Avenue A to 2nd to Garden. So basically from McCarty all the way to Garden. The map is here. We will also have this map online that you can take a look at later. Go ahead. Yeah, we're going to blow it up. So go ahead to the next. I'm going to let you talk about where we are with the schedule.
Yeah.
And talk about the funding too.
Yeah, so So we put in for federal funding. It's called, Transportation Improvement Project. We put in a group of candidates. I think 6 different projects throughout the city. This was a couple of years ago. DOT and Capital Region Transportation reviewed the projects, and they selected Frisbie Avenue and Central Avenue as the projects that were going to be awarded federal aid. Got a hefty amount of money. The overall budget is around $7 million for the 2 projects, and the funds are earmarked, right? So for basically Frisbie and Central are supposed to go into design in 2024, and then construction for 2025. I mean, these the earmarking of the funds can be moved around if necessary, but we're trying to run a really tight schedule here, get feedback in, but get these projects done in 2025, which when you have federal funding tied to your projects, everything just takes longer. Our consultant selection, who we just got Clough Harbor CHA on board, they're a great consultant. We just selected them, but we have to get them under contract, and that has to be reviewed by DOT under federal guidelines. Then our preliminary design needs to be reviewed under federal guidelines. Then our bid documents need to be reviewed under federal guidelines. So there's a lot of back and forth between DOTs. So that's why we're starting this early before CHA is even under contract. They have a rep undercover in the room right now to take notes, but they'll be under contract soon, starting design, so they're going to take notes on what you guys think is important for this project, and so we can really crank out a preliminary design and some concepts as quick as possible, have another meeting, hopefully in spring of 2024, where we will present these concepts and any possible options that exist, and at that point we will finalize design, put it on the website to be seen, hopefully get DOT approval, and get bids out next early 2025 and get into construction summer of 2025. So again, a lot of back and forth, some federal constraints, but we're going to keep moving on this. And overall, I mean, it's exciting, right? So for the grant, it was, as Frank said, it's for Frisbie Ave, sort of rare situation where it's almost all of Frisbie Ave. It's from McCarty to 2nd to Garden, and it includes pedestrian and bicycle improvements in addition to obviously the road reconstruction and any ancillary drainage that needs to be taken care of, and we're going to do lighting improvements. So that's what the application was written for, basically saying at the very least we want to put in some bicycle type of lanes or multi-use trail or sidewalks. We're certainly going to have sidewalks somewhere in the project. We already have ideas in our head, but we want to hear from you guys what you think. So so that's where we're at.
Okay. So again, as Sergio said in the very beginning, so you've got the process. We're here tonight to talk about your visions, your thoughts, what is it that we need to know, okay? From there, it goes to design. Then we'll be back again. We'll have another meeting where we'll get together and show some design concepts that you'll be able to weigh in on and give your feedback. From there, a final design will be chosen, and then we'll move on and get everything going. It would start in 2025. It could be completed in 2025, so it's all in one season. It should be done. So what I would like to do is, I can talk about how to stay informed, but in the future, there's a QR code here, but there's a DGS page on here for this particular project. There's not much there now except for the announcement of this meeting, but everything we talk about tonight, there'll be some stuff up there. This video will be posted to that, as well as any other documents that come up while we're working on the design. It'll all be there. There will be a form on that webpage that you can send in a direct email to. It doesn't work, and I think in the year 2024 now, to just pick up a phone and expect you're going to get somebody to be able to talk to you at that moment if you have a question. So the best way to do it is we put an online form on there. You put your question in writing, and then the right person will get that form, that question, and they can get back to you. They can call you back or send you an email, whichever one you prefer. So that'll be on there as well. We'd like to hear from you. So do we have another mic that works, or do we want people to get up? What do you want to do? We're going to try doing another, we're going to, you know, tell us, now, the minute you did that, maybe not. Go ahead, try search. Hello?
1, 2, 3, 1, 2.
Okay. It's going to be, okay. So here we are. Raise your hand if you have a question, a concern. What do you want us to know? What is it that you feel we need to include? What are the issues that you see? What do we need to know? Let's start there. Who wants to start? Mike. Yep. Go ahead.
To get something done in Frisbie. So a lot of stuff has come up over those years. The drainage at the bottom of Garden and Frisbie floods all the time. Had to just look at it minutes ago when I was on the council. Anything up you know, what side the engineer, you know, multi-use path on, if they can't do anything where that hill is. They have cut back some of the trees every once in a while, but to get that I live on Clare Avenue, and you know, I walk by that a lot, and you see a lot of people, even people with carriages and stuff, and kids trying to get up and down that hill, and there's no sidewalks, there's no safe place to walk. So between the drainage, the sidewalks, even if it can only be on one side, maybe the side where the the community garden is, I don't know. I'm not an engineer. That issue, there's the bump in the, which I really like, but when cars come zooming through, coming from McCarty, there's a little bump there at the front of Frisbie, and a lot of them will hit the front of that, which is great because it makes them slow down. Because they do go through too fast. And I think there needs to be a crosswalk, of course, between the two fields, with one of those nice shiny yield sign things that flash and let somebody know that people are walking across between the two fields. That has to get done. Sidewalks all the way down, like I said, a path, bicycle path, whatever you want to call it, multi-use path, all the way to McCarty. And it also floods at that end, at the end of McCarty. The hill from the FBI building that comes down, now that floods all the time. It gets all ice in the winter. So I'm hoping the drainage can be there. Plus on the rugby side, the east side, the ditch there fills up with water all the time, and that takes forever to drain out. So I don't know how much drainage is in this project. I've been following it along through the Capital Transportation Committee when the money first came out, and it did say drainage, but never really explained what you're doing. So that probably needs, that's going to need some drainage, or else the road's just going to rot away anyway. And I don't know if you've looked at it yet, but Jack will probably tell you that Frisbie was never there until the 70s when they built the mall, and they had to build a dirt road to dump everything in the ravine. So that was only a dirt. At one time it was just a dirt road, and it only went to Avenue A. So I don't know what's under the ground there. I'm sure that's all going to be in your study, but I don't think that was ever made a real road on a real base. So that might add some issues to putting a real road in across there. But I think that's all I can. I'm trying to think of everything that people would talk about, and the speeding cars, of course, like I said, going through. So I'll pass it on. Thanks.
Want to answer that?
No, at this point, we got another record.
Noted, and I look into all that.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
No, I don't need the mic. I think I speak loud.
Okay.
No, actually, if you don't mind using the mic,
Okay, you're recording it?
we're
Yeah,
videoing it,
okay.
that way people at home can hear you.
Yeah. All I want to know if it's include like Avenue A, because I've been fighting with OGS because when it rains, I get a lake. When it snows, I get an ice skating ring from where I live because the sidewalks are all uneven. So you gotta
All right, for the record, the question was consideration for Avenue A and Avenue B, correct? And the flooding that goes there. And what else did you mention?
I'll repeat the question. I live on Avenue A, and the sidewalks are all uneven and cracked. And when it snows, the front of my house actually becomes an ice skating rink. I have to put a piece of wood across it or something. And when it does rain and it's not freezing, it becomes like a lake. I have to wear boots and go over it. And I've contacted OGS 2 or 3 times, and I never received an answer.
So let's say this, Avenue A and Avenue B are being looked at as part of this project.
Okay, and question 2 was going to happen to the sport complex.
It doesn't have anything to do with this project.
It has nothing to do with this project. All right. No. And taxes, they're going to go up?
Well, all right, so we have the answer in the record. Avenue A and Avenue B as being considered part of this project.
Taxes?
Go ahead.
Just want to give my feedback. I know I've shared this before with DGS, but I just want to document it for this meeting. As a resident that now lives on 2nd and Ramo, I frequent Frisbie often, both walking and driving. I think my biggest thing, from my perspective, a desperate need of sidewalks, as you'll probably hear from others here. The other thing that I noticed when driving is at Frisbie and McCarty, that setup right there, I would like to be looked at, because a lot of times cars hesitate, and it brings some safety concerns with cars driving, hesitating from either way, turning in or turning out. And so it does seem to be a high traffic area, particularly with the FBI building and other businesses right in that location. So that's something I would like explored for better safety.
Thank you. One more.
Yeah, so the drainage specifically, I think this gentleman was talking about the road being built in like the 70s or so. That rugby pitch that he was just referring to was also built around the 70s and 80s, and it was built by the rugby team, the rugby club here in Albany, New York. And I want to consider what that drainage looks like around there, as we have year-round usage on that field. There's also flag football on that field. There's also Frisbie, youth soccer, and the baseball fields. And so it's a highly utilized area, so it's a big impact. And my thought was, when we said the St. Rose fields are not part of the plan, maybe they could become part of the plan as overflow or usage as you're tearing that area up. I would agree, the sidewalks are a huge deal. There's always kids going back and forth between the playgrounds in Hoffman Park, over to the soccer field, the baseball field, the rugby pitch. And everyone's kind of walking there, and there's a need for bike safety there as well. Many of us are riding our bikes to these events. There's also kickball, I believe, uses that. I know we have some utilization over at Lincoln Park, but even with everything all up and running 100%, there's just not enough space. So we need to take that into consideration and phasing that project out. And I know the club would want to work with the city to make that happen, because like I said, it's been maintained by the club itself. We aerate, we fertilize, we seed every year for the last 20 plus years. So thank you.
Thank you. I saw a lady with a hand up here.
And we're not going to ignore say we're not part of this project, but we're going to follow what happens with that field. We're going to follow what happens with nearby projects and make sure our design makes sense versus the other changing elements.
It won't
in the
hinder
area.
that.
Hi, how are you? My name is Edith Metchek. I used to live on the corner of Bertha and 2nd, been there 42 years until the house got sold last year. So my parents, they spent many years there. So my problem would be, a lot of people don't know, prior to Hoffman Park being built, that First Ave used to run from downtown all the way up to Leadale. This is where we come problem with Avenue A and Avenue B, because it used to be a dump. So I want to bring that up. The situation that you're probably going through is that the ground has settled. So you got a lot of dips there, so that's probably why you got a lot of drainage issues, because that area is fairly new prior to the reconstruction of Hoffman Park. Some of the prone areas are where we go past. I'm not worried about from the park side, from McCarty Ave going to 2nd Ave, but 2nd Ave going to Garden Street, where it becomes a big puddle mess. It's muddy right there where the garden is. utilizing the situations with good drainage systems for the sewer, possibly a bigger ditch, sidewalks, bike lanes. I don't even like to ride my bike there, and I'm a biker. Also, then you got to worry about the massive amount of water and rain coming off a Garden and Frisbie, where it becomes that hill going into Garden all the way down to Slingerland Street going to Green Tech. Green Tech area, I don't know if you're going to do that too, but that has a problem with poor drainage too. And then you got to look at the rain, what am I going to say, where the wooded areas are, where, if there's hills. So that has been becoming a problem for many years. I don't know what you guys did prior to 25 years ago before he said, but this has been like this for many years. You know, before when they paved Frisbie, why didn't they think about that? When everybody knows that the city of Albany is the capital of Albany, why not make that great? There's a lot of other areas that need a lot of work too. Anything else I should add? Did I get that? Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Who's next? Who's next? We're gonna go next.
Thanks. So I'm here for myself because I live in this area and we go over to the Hoffman Center and use Frisbie Avenue. So it's really important to us to have some improvements made over there. I'm also here on behalf of Capitol Streets, and there is a huge amount of notes that I've received from them that it's not going to be possible to go through all of that tonight. So they're going to submit those online, so we have that link. So thank you very much for providing that. Okay, that's really awesome. Okay, that's awesome. Yeah, thank you. So one of the things I wanted to bring up is it looks like the road widths are actually quite wide across Frisbie. And a lot of times when we're trying to advocate for sidewalks and for bike lanes, a lot of the pushback we get is that there isn't sufficient width. And it appears that there is good widths along Frisbie. So I just kind of want to point that out now because I'd like to get ahead of that to be able to say, like, let's keep those widths, but like not make it so much of a priority for cars, but start making it more of a priority for people in the neighborhood and people on bicycles. For the bicycle infrastructure, we would really love to have safe bike lanes. Like a lot of times all you see is just a painted bicycle in the middle of the road. And as a bicyclist and among lots and lots of bicyclists around the city, that is not safe at all. Like it doesn't really, maybe at some point in years past, people really took it seriously and were like, wow, there's bikes here, we're gonna pay attention and go slow. That is not the case now, and it feels incredibly unsafe to bike around the city most of the time. So I would really like to advocate and to ask to make sure that if you put in bike lanes, like be very cognizant of that and make them separated. Use bollards, use curbs, anything like that. People keep bringing up that there are issues with drainage. There's a lot of ponding and a lot of puddling. So a lot of Frisbie Ave already has trees, like forested canopy, which are absorbing a ton of the water. So just make sure that, you know, if there are instances where those trees can be left, that would be really great. And then adding street trees and green infrastructure wherever possible to absorb rainwater and to help improve drainage would be super great for us. And let me just make sure there's anything else. Oh, the Hoffman Center is getting all of these upgrades and renovations, and there are tons of kids that use the Hoffman Center. So crosswalks, like making it safe for the kids that are going to go there. And then thinking down the road, we don't have any way from our neighborhood to get down to the South End Connector and to get over to the Mohawk Hudson Bike Trail. Like McCarthy is the way that we go, but it's insanely unsafe, and there's no way to even get there from Delaware Avenue. So perhaps thinking about, like, we have the road widths, maybe 2nd Avenue to Frisbie to McCarthy or something that we can get down to the South End Connector and utilize it, so we don't have to get into a car with a bike rack to go put our bikes down on a safe bike lane would be fantastic. So this is a really awesome opportunity, and I just want to thank you for having this meeting as well. Really appreciate that.
Thank you. Who's next? Hi, how are you?
Good. How you doing? Hi. Thanks. Quick. Do you have are the road widths, or the right-of-way widths, are they going to be on the website? And do you have a target or a standard that you currently are using now for lane widths?
I mean, yes, so we can, the right of ways are here, we can post this to the website. You have 66 feet from McCartney to Second, and then 60 feet from Second to Garden. We've, we shoot for, roadways can vary, I really would like to weigh in on that, it can range from like 10 to 12 feet, but here's the thing, right, Club Harbor's coming on board. They're experts at this stuff, and they already have. We know we can fit some good bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure in the project. We feel very confident. If that's what you guys want, we shall provide.
Okay, but
That's what the meeting for us, it's for you to talk. It's a listening.
right.
So we're not going to have answers for any of that. And
No.
It's not going to be on the website at this point. Tell us what you want. Designs come up. That's when we'll be able to have another conversation.
Okay, if I was to just interject, say one thing about road widths, because we know it's a big cut through for people trying to get over to the throughway, like from the Morton area, people coming through there. There's lots of schools, lots of parks. My recommendation is to narrow the roads as much as you can, narrow the lanes as much as you can to try to slow those speeds down, whether you're narrowing it just by however you want to narrow it. Thank you.
Yeah, we're finding out throughout the city that as we narrow the street, traffic calms down a little bit, so some places.
So I'm just curious who would be accountable for sidewalks that would need to be maintained across those two parks?
Majority of these areas, that much I can answer. The majority of these areas would be the city because there's not a lot of there's no housing there. So that you're looking at you've got Palmieri on one side, you've got Fields on the other side of the city property. You pass Second Avenue, you've got the community gardens, and it's all city property. So it would end up being the city that would have to maintain this. It's a good question because if it was residential, it would be their responsibility. But
Anybody else?
who's next?
To this side first.
Hi, actually, I'm one of the few houses that are actually on Frisbie Avenue, and the only house on the extension side. And I want to reiterate what everyone's been saying. The flooding, the no sidewalks, because there are like black top sidewalks that go halfway into my lawn and then just stop. And on the other side, they go halfway over and then you're in the bushes. And then at the bottom, right before you start going up kind of the hill, right by the garden area, on both sides, it's always breaking off and freezing and puddles coming through there. So whatever they need to do with the sides to stop that from happening. And there is no lines. So this one coming down here is all of a sudden going in the middle of the road and not seeing the car that's coming up or the people that are walking in the street, because constantly during the summer there'll be a family with 2 or 3 adult women, and they've got carriages and little kids, and they're walking in the middle of the street, and you got these cars just zoom up and zoom down. So I mean, we need a lot of markings on the streets, and as they said, he got me with the sign. We need one of those flashing signs right by the fields over there, and maybe even at the part where they cross Second or something a little bit more, because they are crazy when they cross Second Avenue coming up that way, and that little bump, they go up because they're all running the light. So I was just but signage and drainage would be a big thing, and yes, definitely sidewalks. It's just killer the amount of people that are walking there, and I'm surprised nobody's dead yet. I've been there since 2007, and it's the busiest street I've ever seen. Try and get out of your driveway when you're trying to go to work. But I mean, these people just drive like crazy all the time, like I said. So just reiterating, these guys got pretty much everything, but signage, drainage.
Okay, I saw a gentleman here. Okay, good.
I'm Jack Ray. I live on Frisbie and Second Avenue for the last 40 years. As far as what other people had said, yes, sidewalks are needed. Right now, sidewalks on the east side of Frisbie from 2nd to McCarthy only stops at Avenue A. It should extend past Avenue A to B and then goes into the fields, which everybody thinks is soccer fields, but years ago, it was a ice skating rink for speed skating. It was nominated underneath the Whalen regime. I'm retired from the city of Albany, by the way. Furthermore, on the other side of Frisbie, which will be from 2nd Avenue to McCarthy, it'd be no sidewalks all the way over to where the baseball fields are for St. Rose. There should be. Other than that, I did ask when they put the LEDs in, how come they're not bright? He says that's the lowest amperage we have. They should be increased because back when we had the sodium lights, it was a lot brighter on that side. People walking with dark clothing and everything else, they got to walk out in the street. I don't care even if you got a reflected lighting thing on you, it's still gonna be, you gotta walk in the street on that side of the street. People cannot walk safely. As far as the signal, the traffic lights with the photography, fine. It has decreased the accidents on 2nd and Frisbie. When I lived there, it was one or two a day. This helped. But I got a question. Why only on 3 corners instead of the 4th corner going west is on 2nd Avenue? Do they not have a camera? And secondly, the other thing is that hump. Years ago, when it was paved over, they did decrease the incline right there. I wouldn't want to be in an ambulance having somebody trying to put a needle in me when they hit that.
And then it's an ambulance route.
It's an ambulance route to the main. It is. I like to see that decreased as much as possible. Yeah, it's going to take some excavation and everything else. I know. It's going from. It's on 2nd Ave. It's on Frisbie. Okay, the hump would be on the north side of Frisbie, of 2nd Avenue. But I think the lighting should be increased because the lights on 2nd Avenue are very much brighter. And then when you go for the last 3 poles going over Frisbie from 2nd Avenue to McCarthy, and I think that's pole number 13, 14, and 15, very dim. Yep. And if you're going to put sidewalks in, which I really kind of hope you do, is put it in there because people are walking out in the middle of the streets with carriages, with everything else. No. And also, where the stop sign is on Frisbie, going north onto 2nd Avenue, right there, that stop sign should be brought, the stop line should be brought back to the tree. Because after 40 years, I've seen a lot of people, a lot of trucks and buses, school buses, handicap buses, and everything else cannot make the turn because people do it. Right there at the intersection, that if you look at the double yellow line, it curves around and it comes out toward Upper 2nd Avenue going west. There's got to be something done there. It's a hazard. I mean, I see people.
Traffic engineering will be looking at, and when CHA does design, they're looking at traffic patterns.
Okay, I hope to help.
That will all be looked at, but it's good that you mentioned it so that it's on the
I
right.
like to see Billy Trudeau Jr. call me.
Yeah, well, he's going to be part of the process along
Yes,
with CHA.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Hi. Gentleman was talking about the dip there at 2nd Avenue and Frisbie. I think that's a good thing. I know for a fact I've been living in my house for 30 years, and trying to take that dip at accelerated speed, after you've driven it a couple times, you have enough sense to slow down. I think that's a good thing. They should leave that. As far as the drainage goes, I concur with everybody as far as the drainage on both sides. They definitely need sidewalks from 2nd Avenue to Garden. And I will hope that they would leave as many trees there as possible. When I bought my house there, it was secluded. Since I've lived there, they've built 5 houses there. And I don't have that feeling of being secluded anymore. But anyway, the trees are nice along the park there. And every year, they seem to keep cutting back and back and back. Seems like there might not be any trees there in another year or two. It's part of the beauty of living, you know? We see enough brick and mortar all over the place. The trees in the park are nice. So that's all I got to say.
Thank you. We'll have our arborist also part of this project, where he comes in and he looks at what's there, assess the life expectancy of the tree, and plant more trees. By the way, I'm a big tree guy. We launched a program in 2025 to plant 25 trees. We already exceeded that 2 years ahead, so you're going to start seeing a lot more trees. Trees are good for the neighborhoods. Anybody else?
Yeah, I just want to note that there's a logical pedestrian pathway coming across from where Hoffman Park is and St. Rosefield. You have already a sidewalk that comes from the playground. It goes straight across. Everyone takes that coming from that side of the park to cross Frisbie to go over to the other side. So if we could line them up so that they could go straight across with the lighting and everything, I think that would be helpful. As far as the trees too, on Frisbie Ave, on the Frisbie side of like where the soccer and the rugby pitch is, that's lined with trees right there. We'd like to try to keep as many of them as possible, clearly. But that's kind of also where kind of the line is when we talk about space. So in a rugby pitch, you have what you have on the field, but you also have to play a little bit out of the field. And maintaining the balls inside, that's one of the thoughts about having those trees there, that there's a reason for that. So we don't have balls going out there. We don't have kids chasing them. Same thing for soccer, Frisbees, and everything else that's played out there, footballs and things like that. So we would like to maintain that line if we can at that 62 feet from side to side.
Because you represent an organization, similar to how you represent an organization, I suggest that you put something together that talks about what the needs are for your organization, your sport, what's necessary. And
I just want to be clear. I don't represent the Albany Knicks. I am a for the record. You're recording. Let me just specifically say, Albany Knicks as an organization, I'm sure will be happy to submit something. Right. Tanya Rollison, as a member of the Albany Knicks and is very passionate about playing and having the sport for the future, is saying this today. So.
Representative of the organization, though. Things that you're saying.
Thank you.
Okay, now speaking about the traffic, a lot of traffic during the afternoon rush hour on Frisbie that comes from 2nd down to McCarthy. Many times it is common for me to try to leave Avenue A, and there's a row of vehicles all the way from 2nd Avenue, all the way through Frisbie, all the way to McCarthy. And I think that having like a left-only lane over there would alleviate it a little bit, but it could take me a good 15 minutes just to cross Frisbie Avenue, and I think that's ridiculous. That's all.
Anybody else? Did we miss anybody?
I'd like to say, what he said there should be more signage about 20 miles an hour on that area, because I travel that route every day. And I have people pass me on a double yellow line. And because I'm doing the 20 miles, but the sign going down when you come off of Route 9W, come over to Frisbie, says 20 miles. People think it's 20 miles an hour going down McCarthy, not over Frisbie.
Let me just say, for all of this, there will be a traffic
study.
Traffic is part of this, right? And they will be weighing in on all of that. So. Okay. All right.
Anybody else that we missed? Okay, I'm sorry.
So you guys probably know what I'm going to say already. I just want to register my support for safe cycling routes, either a sidewalk for pedestrians or a multi-use path, something that keeps everybody safe regardless of what mode of transportation they're trying to use. I don't know if like a center median is possible for this project, but for the areas where there are crosswalks, maybe think about having like a pedestrian refuge there, just so it makes it just a little bit safer for folks to cross. And you noted that the parks are not part of this project, but I would just urge you to be mindful about future connections, either other crosswalks that are going to be put in place for Avenue A or B, or for the park. I know there's lots of things that we can do to the park, and so I would just urge you to be mindful about the future. Last thing is just a question. You mentioned the budgetary constraints and the width requirements passed down by the federal government. Are there any other limitations that you'd like the public to know about?
Engineer?
No. What we found is that it's not, there's different interests is what limits things. Okay. Somebody sometimes wants more, parking, and somebody else wants bike lanes, and we're happy to do what we can do, and sometimes the public's actually sort of against each other, quite frankly. So that's why we want to present some
That's
options.
why this is a listening.
In the next meeting.
So we're listening.
On anything that we think might be.
Anybody else? This gentleman?
I just want to add my voice to the everybody who's saying that we should have this should be very pedestrian friendly all up and down here. I live over on South Swan Street, which is within walking distance of the parks up here, but we never go there because it's just too unsafe to walk up there. And also, I'd like to say that it seems to me that the hydrology problems with drainage are going to be really difficult, it seems to me. I hope there's some kind of a plan in place that's not going to be taking up too much time and money that's going to delay the project or eat up all the funds. But the thing I want to emphasize is several people brought this up, is that Frisbie Avenue is a major commuter route. I've been in my house 38 years, and before that I lived in Center Square and used to, in the 1970s we're talking about, and I discovered this route when I had a job down in Quayman's. This is how I went to work, was up and down here. Before the pandemic, we used to see coming down in my neighborhood, they'd be coming up Frisbie, they'd be coming up around, they'd be going up Oneida Terrace, they turn right on Catherine, they go down, they turn left on South Swan, and then head straight through Lincoln Park for the to the mall. It was a constant stream of traffic. They didn't even stop for the stop signs. They just kept coming through. And what I'd like to see is, besides making this pedestrian friendly, I think these two things go together, is to, I don't know if I say discourage this being a commuter route, because I don't think this is a very appropriate commuter route. I don't want to see this like turn into some kind of a highway, okay, because of this project. And this is this is a thing I really do not want to see. It should be easy to, like, of course, drive up and down there without worrying about. It should be easy to drive up and down there, and easy to walk up and down there, both of us. But I'm wondering. I'm not going to make any suggestions because I really don't know much about traffic engineering. What is the best thing, except what I've seen over the years? But I would like to see the commuters discouraged from using this as a main route. I think this would. I think just looking at it, I think it's absurd that right now that it is such a major route. So I'd like to see that looked at. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Actually, talking about it being a commuter route, so I live on Garden and I take Frisbie over to get on the thruway, and what happens is it backs up with people going that route to get on the thruway. That whole intersection, which I know isn't really part of the project, but that sort of triangle intersection, please look at that. Yeah. And then also on Garden, and I don't know if it's even possible, but we live right at the top of that steep hill at Garden, and there's sidewalks on our side all the way down, but across the street it stops. So people are crossing Garden at the very top of that hill, which is to get onto stay on a sidewalk, and it's just really dangerous because people come up that hill. You can't see anybody when you're coming up that hill.
Thank you. Anybody else that hasn't spoken?
How you doing? So my main concerns are one, the yield sign at the end of Frisbie as you hit McCarthy. I cycle commute that area pretty much every day. I find that to be extremely dangerous for a cyclist, and I don't know that it's all that efficient for cars because they end up kind of gridlocking each other because nobody wants to wait. They want to just go. So I, kind of want to reiterate that should be looked at. And then just overall the connectivity from there down to the South End Connector and up to Delaware Ave. It's actually technically a bike route, but as somebody that rides it every day, it's not set up anywhere like that. And it's not that easy and it's not that safe in order to ride along the sides or anything with the traffic patterns the way that they are set up now and the speeds that everybody goes. So I would like to see not only some sidewalks, but protected bike lanes if possible. Something better than the little painted cyclist on the road because they're worn off in a year and nobody cared in the first place. So I'd just like to see something done that would be actually good for cycling in order to make that safe so that we can get around Albany, overall Albany, safer on bicycles.
Thank you. Anybody else? So just one more?
Just to follow up on Dan's mentioned the hydrology and the water. I remember when they were building the baseball field for St. Rose, and I had been walking by one of the engineers I'm talking to, and he says, this thing keeps flooding. I said, yeah. He says, yeah, the water table is very high here, so I'm sure CHA's got to figure this out, but there's a stream that ran under there, because when my kids were in the Little League there, when we had the Little League, we had to build a new clubhouse foundation because it cracked, and we had to raise $10,000 to get some, I think it was called an Alaskan, some earthquake type of foundation put in because of the creek underneath the ground kept moving the dirt and it kept cracking. Yeah, so we had to do it. It cost us $10,000. We had to raise at the time before the Little League closed. So there is definitely is a water issue there underneath. Plus the other's being an old landfill and it's capped. You really can't do much with the landfill side. The rugby soccer field side over there because it's a capped landfill. But so, yeah, that's going to be a major issue, I think, to control the drainage there. And I asked the guy, he said, well, why don't you make it a raised baseball field then? It's actually sunk. The baseball field actually was built down low. And so I'm not an engineer, but I don't know. I asked him why he did that, and he never explained why.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, this was pretty much a great feedback. We have our team together, which is our engineer, our arborist, our consultant. We got a lot of good feedbacks, traffic engineering. They're all going to take this notes and put it all together. It's going to be on the website. So I'm going to turn it back to Frank.
I just want to mention one thing. Normally I just say it loudly, but I want to make sure it's on the video. The next steps. They're going to go, and as he said, we're all going to meet. We're going to go and take everything we heard here and see what we can do to address as much as we can. Clough Harbor is the consultant that will then put together a couple of options. And then there'll be another public meeting, we said what, in the summer?
So I like everything I hear today, and I think it's kind of like people are generally in agreement.
Yeah.
You know, we got drainage, pedestrians, bicycles,
You'll
things like
definitely
that.
have
So
options.
basically, I'd rather do it earlier then.
Yeah.
I think we're going to be in good shape
When
here.
do we think?
Spring?
Spring. So let's say late spring will be the next step, and keep checking the website. Stuff will be on the website. And make sure you sign up in the back so that if we send emails, alerts, we'll probably send an email out for the next meeting. And there you go. This presentation will be online, as well as the map and the boundaries and a sign up, a question box that you can ask a question, and then it'll send an email to us.
Yeah, and the plan of the second meeting would be more led by Clough Harbor presenting. And, I got to ask about constraints, right? It's like the real answer is there's tons of constraints. Like you guys said, there's soil constraints, there's tons of guidelines. So, we get in the nitty-gritty of the design here, and we look at everything, and our consultant does, and we really try to do our best. So in the second meeting, we can present options that I hope we're going to make a lot of you happy. And anything we can't solve, we're going to give our reasons why we can't, and go from there.
Your name, and are you the city engineer?
I'm the interim city engineer
Yeah.
right now.
Interim?
Yes. So
I'm
again, the website will give you all the information. Okay. In today's day and age, that's where all the information is going to be. If the arborist weighs in and he has a report, that'll be on there. Keep checking the website.
And again, thank you for attending. And if you have a question that you might have, that you think about it in the next week, whatever, you could go online, submit that question, and someone will answer that question for you. We're trying to make this as informative and as learning from us as well. So thank you again for the weather and coming in and spending some time with us. And again,